Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. Oh my goodness, today we have an absolutely insane story. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the wildest Star Wars update you hear for the rest of the year. Nothing tops this. It is causing such an immense uproar, such a stir online, and you can understand why. For once, this is not a rumor, this is not hearsay or he said she said, this is official news coming from the mouth of Adam Driver, and he's just spilled some crazy information that exposed Disney, and he might have damaged his relationship with them, but we're grateful he did, because he just shed some light on a Star Wars movie that we didn't even know existed. And as you're gonna see my friends, this is all on Disney. We like to say it's Kathleen Kennedy's fault, or generally Lucasfilm's fault, but in this instance, it comes down to Bob Iger and Disney. Let's dive straight in. In an unexpected revelation that is already spreading a ripple through the galaxy far away, Adam Driver has revealed that he spent 2 years developing a Star Wars film with Steven Soderbergh, a project that was shut down instantly when it was suggested to Disney, despite support from Lucasfilm leadership. It was a movie that was set after Episode 9 and would have showed the revival of Ben Solo, formerly the main villain of the sequel trilogy. Ben Solo turned back to the light in Episode 9, and in a final self-sacrificial act, he saved Rey's life. Earlier this week, Adam Driver said this: "I was always interested in doing another Star Wars. I had been talking about doing another one since 2021. And then he says, it was Kathleen Kennedy who reached out. I always said, with a great director and a great story, I'd be there in a second. I love the character and I love playing him." So then according to Driver, he's the one who took the initiative. He was so dead set on making this movie happen. And for a time, like he says, for 2 years, it was his main primary focus. He took the concept to Steven Soderbergh. He told him Ben Solo has unfinished business. They developed the story with screenwriter Rebecca Blunt, and they went back to Lucasfilm and said, this is what we've got. Kathleen Kennedy loved it, and Dave Filoni loved it. He says Lucasfilm responded enthusiastically, but to further the vision and to flesh it out, they enlisted Scott Burns to write the screenplay. Adam Driver says, we presented the script, they loved it, they understood our angle and why we're doing it. And then Driver reveals the title of the movie, The Hunt for Ben Solo. There's no indication if this was originally going to be episode 10, but it sounds to me like a standalone. And the craziest thing about this is how invested Adam Driver was. This isn't just your usual case of Kathleen Kennedy calling up an actor. Adam Driver made this his mission. For 2 years, it was his priority. He had an idea in mind, and he personally sought out these different creatives. He was so driven to make this happen, and Disney is so foolish to have turned him down. I mean, do they not realize that Adam is one of the most talented people who worked on the sequel trilogy? Look, I was never the biggest Kylo Ren fan, I'm not gonna lie to you, but he was one of the most captivating parts of episode 7, 8 and 9, and I'm saying that as a non-sequel fan. This movie sounds like it would have been insane. They worked on it for 2 bloody years. We've had Star Wars movies announced and scrapped in that time. 2 years working on a singular vision, with some of the most talented people you can imagine. Kathleen Kennedy didn't try to scrap it for once. They didn't can it due to creative differences. It was the mouse. Adam Driver says this: we then took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was still alive. And that was that. End of story. Done. I have to be honest, I think Adam Driver was hurt by all of this, because let's take a step back. Just for a moment, consider the magnitude of an actor revealing something like this. Something which I'm sure was a Lucasfilm and Disney secret. He just spilled the beans, shots fired, movie title revealed, the plot of the movie revealed, and by name, calling out Bob Iger, Alan Bergman, and other executives at Disney. I'm sure Adam has burnt some bridges now, but the fact this came out so publicly, it just proves that oftentimes we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and why certain rumors and leaks end up being wrong, not because the source was necessarily mistaken, but because things change, and information about projects which might have been worked on at one point, but never left the concept stage, is never made public. And we would never have known about this had it not been for Adam Driver. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Should Ben Solo still be alive after his Exegol death? Star Wars fans seem divided on this. Some have argued that because characters like Maul, Palpatine, and countless others have survived the brink, Ben Solo being resurrected isn't that crazy, especially considering he's a dyad with Rey. Then there are those who argue that Ben being alive undermines his arc in Episode 9, his final sacrifice. Adam Driver says the movie would have addressed this and his quote, spiritual reckoning, coming back to the light side and now being a Jedi. And this could have been the perfect intermission leading into the Rey movie. And this also brings up another question. Considering all of the backlash to the Rey stuff that's coming up, her standalone, the Kinberg trilogy, maybe Star Wars Starfighter, would fans have preferred a scenario where Lucasfilm explores the same time period, but with one key difference: Kylo Ren is still alive? If the answer is yes, which I have seen some Star Wars fans echo on social media, then it proves the idea that one of the biggest problems with Episodes 7, 8 and 9 was the execution of certain character stories who otherwise had promise. What I mean by this is fans didn't necessarily hate Rey, Finn and Kylo, they hated the way they were handled. They wanted more from them. And Kylo Ren / Ben Solo especially. I've spoken to countless Star Wars fans who don't necessarily like those movies, but they like the character of Kylo Ren and thought he was pretty badass. But this movie sounds like it would have been pretty amazing. The creators behind it, the fact Lucasfilm was on board, I think it could have changed every post-Episode 9 film. Because the motives of the bad guys, who are going to be after Rey, now has a spicy twist. Because it's so much more than Darkseid users going after Rey's Jedi Academy. It might be former Knights of Ren going after their former leader. There is so much potential for bringing Ben Solo back. But now, honestly, after all of this, I very much doubt they're going to do it. I think in saying all of this, Adam Driver knew the consequences. He probably realized he's not going to get that phone call ever again. But no, like I say, I think Disney made a huge mistake. Look, let's just call it for what it is. There comes a point where you can't help but look around and notice an unfortunate trend. That something is messed up, whether it's at the studio Lucasfilm or whether it's with Disney or a bit of both. There comes a point where you have to admit that they are mismanaging this brand, and this has to be Bob Iger's biggest L. At a time where fans are dunking on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, at a time where it feels like no one really cares about Star Wars the way they used to, news comes out about a cancelled Kylo Ren movie, and more people are talking about this than anything recent that Disney has put out, aside from maybe Andor Season 2. More than the Mandalorian and Grogu, more than freaking Star Wars Visions, this is the kind of movie fans wanted. Great screenwriter, great director, fantastic actor, a character who has been, honestly before the TV shows, the face of Star Wars for a good 5 years. Kylo Ren's mask is more iconic than, I would say, 99% of any TV show characters, except for maybe Mando and Grogu. And you know, this is coming at a time where we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens, and a couple of days ago was the 10th anniversary of one of the trailers for the film. My very first impression of Kylo Ren was very positive. The trailer kind of baited us in more ways than one. There was Snoke's voiceover, which never appeared in the movie, when he says the dark side and the light. And then there's the shot of Kylo in the forest, where he ignites his lightsaber, and the surprise of the crossguard saber. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, he kind of reminded me of Darth Revan, and I was so excited to learn about this guy. When that trailer dropped, you realized from the anticipation, the excitement, that this was going to be a phenomenon. And the hype, not just for The Force Awakens, but also for The Last Jedi, is greater than we've ever seen in recent years. Because even though with hindsight, people hate Episodes 7, 8 and 9, the majority of people I spoke to who aren't sequel fans didn't have as much of an issue with Episode 7. The Force Awakens, I guess, was the safest and least egregious of those films, and people were hoping with Episode 8 to see Luke in action now that Rey found him. But of course, that's when things went downhill in 2017. But the build up to Episode 7, I can't even describe just how excited fans that I knew were and that the internet was. It was buzzing, and part of that was Kylo. And I think that of all the characters from the sequel trilogy, he's the one character fans are most forgiving of. And that's why a lot of people are saying they'd be happy to see a movie like this. But what do you guys think? Would you have wanted to see the hunt for Ben Solo? What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you always.